Yo, what's up? What's going on, everybody? What is good? We are here live and wanted to, jump on this thing here to talk about a few topics here on the boxing scene here on October 8th, 2023. Yeah, I'm still kind of, in the recovery phase or recovery mode of being in Vegas last week. Uh, of course, you had that Canelo Charlo bout that took place at the T-Mobile Arena, and even though that started at around, well, the pay-per-view portion started at around 5 p.m. Pacific time. Man, I did not get into, I guess, my hotel until like after 12 a.m. or something like that, man. So that little card, man, that ran a long time, man. Definitely ran a long time. And yeah, I'm still, kind of, yo, recovering from that. But we're fully back here, back over in the East Coast. We have, a number of things here that we're going to be talking about here for this particular episode, man. We had, a few fights that did take place yesterday. They had, a world title bout of sorts that, took place yesterday, man, where, I, I mean, I felt like, one particular fighter was going to score a big win here in this particular bout, and it kind of ended up being another one of those good bouts there over in the UK in the featherweight division. So we're going to be talking about that. You also had a fight that was in the cruiserweight division. Two fighters that were pretty much like heavyweights, but ended up fighting in the cruiserweight division, and that was a part of the Golden Boy card, which one particular promoter kind of overblowed that that fight and pretty much that whole card. But I mean, that's what he does. You know what I'm saying? So there's that, man. And also, you had like new news that came over in the past couple of days here, and we're going to be jumping on that first because this is a fairly big bout in the super middleweight division. Of course, we have the undisputed super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez defeat Jamel Charlo, and folks are still talking about that. They're still talking about the efforts from Jamel Charlo in that particular bout, but you do have a highly anticipated bout of sorts in the super middleweight division coming up in November with David Benavidez going up against Demetrius-Andrade. Both guys undefeated. Both guys been world champions. And this one here, it had been announced. We pretty much had a story that broke in reference to this particular bout in the card with the undercard that included Jose Benavidez Jr. You know what I'm saying? And he was supposed to be facing Jamel Charlo in this, but now it looks like they've had a little bit of a shift there in this upcoming fight card, as it was slated to be in San Antonio, but now according to reports, first out of was it Jake Donovan that put this out a few hours ago, in that now it seems like it's confirmed it's going to be in Las Vegas. So, man, it's going to be another Las Vegas type of a bout. Real quick, man, I got, of course, one of our great guests here on the Boxing Source checking in. The Boxing Academic is in the building to, give his takes on what's been happening in the fights and news. What's going on, man?
Not much. How you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm good. Still recovering from last week. Checked out the fights that happened yesterday. So, be talking about that here in a little bit. But, also have this news coming down in reference to, the super middleweight bout with David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade, man. I thought it was going to be in San Antonio. I had, a few folks that were, really excited about that particular fight card being in San Antonio. Given that they've had a few events out there in that area, but now given that this Benavidez-Andrade fight is now being moved over to Las Vegas, it looks like they're trying to put this here at what is it, the Michelob Ultra Arena, or over there by the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. And I'm thinking maybe it's something where they probably would get more money out the gate, for this instead of putting it in San Antonio or whatever. But it's still going to be a pay per view too. So you still given what has been discussed in reference to Showtime Sports and what they've been doing. This one's another pay per view event, but hey, you got Demetrius, not Andrade, but you have David Benavidez that's already headlined a pay per view against Caleb Plant, and we haven't seen Demetrius-Andrade since January. Where he fought Damon Nicholson in DC. So now this is going to be a very interesting bout, and this is going to be a real test here for Demetrius-Andrade, man. I mean, he's been looking for these type of fights, for the majority of his career, and now he's stepping it up here against one fighter that a lot of folks say is the guy that could potentially be the number one overall guy in super middleweight, and that does include Canelo Alvarez, man. What do you think about that fight, Benavidez and Andrade? First, like with it being in Vegas, but also like as a fight in general.
Well, I am happy that Andrade gets to show and prove, because there's been a lot of talk around Andrade where people say that he's the goods, and I want to believe it, but until you show me, there have been so many people who have been prospects and I guess contenders, and they have always been the goods, and then when they face that high pressure, the pressure that makes diamonds, they couldn't cut it. That's supposed to be a bar, but I look forward to him getting in the ring with Benavidez. Quite naturally, Benavidez will be favored in Las Vegas, and unless Andrade can have enough power to keep Benavidez honest, I just don't know if I see him winning this fight. I ain't gonna even say I don't know. I don't see him winning unless he comes in and his power is more devastating than it actually is, which I'm not sure it is. If his power is more devastating, then that'll be the reason why he's able to keep Benavidez honest and able to sort of, put a boxing clinic on. But he gonna have to keep him honest. His power gonna have to be enough to keep this guy respectable, because otherwise, I mean,
you might be a long night for Andrade then. So what do you think his chances are as far as like, of course, Benavidez had his fight against Caleb Plant, and Caleb Plant, was able to do a few things here and there, kind of like frustrated Benavidez there a little bit early, but then Benavidez kind of like got his composure back and was a little bit more patient, and then just eventually broke down Caleb Plant there in the late part of the fight in order to get the overall decision win over Caleb Plant. But do you think Andrade has a shot to like frustrate Benavidez like Caleb Plant did?
I mean, that's actually a great point. Benavidez is suspect per the Caleb Plant fight in cutting off the ring and stuff. So again, if Andrade is able to fight off his back foot, land shots from the outside, and stay away and dodge shots and stuff, which I think he does have the ability to do that, but I just don't know if he hit hard enough. I just really don't know. I want him to hit hard enough. I want it to be a good fight. Maybe even see him hurt Benavidez, but I think Caleb Plant probably more slick than him. And it's been so long since I've seen him fight. I can't even remember how his endurance is, because if he's able to have good endurance and able to, to slip shots, dodge shots, then yeah, he will be able to and obviously fight off the back foot and use every square corner of the ring, then sure, yeah, he will give Benavidez trouble. But compared to Caleb Plant, is he a better mover? Maybe. Is he a better boxer? Well, maybe.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. And as far as power, I mean, they both ain't got power, but I've seen Caleb Plant probably knock out more people, but I'm not sure about that either.
I mean, the thing about it is, even with Andrade, even in his last fight, right? Like, we even saw him, get knocked down by Damon Nicholson, even in that particular fight where, it almost seemed like it was going to be like a clean sweep, win for him. But, he was even knocked down in that fight. And, that's going to be the thing with him. And also the thing here too is, right? Demetrius-Andrade is out there at 35. Like, like he's actually like one of the oldest guys out there, out in the super middleweight division, going up against David Benavidez, who's there at like 26. So, I mean, he's kind of, been amongst those guys that, were kind of before the David Benavidez is out there. Like, he's been, part of that group with, like, the Sean Porters, the Keith Thurmans, the Danny Garcia's. Like, he's part of that, he's part of that, squad. But, Benavidez is, came up, after that. And so he's been, well established there, the super middleweight division, for, many years here, while, Demetrius-Andrade, basically just had just one fight there at super middleweight. So it's like, now, how is he going to be able to, fight someone with the size of a David Benavidez, who, some pretty much could say, like, is one of those quote unquote big super middleweights, and as some may say, like, he kind of comes in there as almost like a light heavyweight or a cruiserweight against his opponents. So, we got to see, like, how he's going to be able to, take the shots from David Benavidez, one, and the activity, out there, given that Demetrius-Andrade is, up there at like 35, in comparison to David Benavidez being at 26. So I'm kind of intrigued about this, because Andrade could make it a really interesting fight here, or it could be something where David Benavidez could, score something where he could be a very impressive win for him, especially going into 2024, where now some folks are saying that maybe Canelo will be facing someone like David Benavidez next year, given what happened with Canelo against Jamel Charlo. Like, they said, like, they're not really interested in if he potentially faces Jamal Charlo or not, but we're going to see how that goes. And, speaking of Jamal Charlo, he's supposed to be part of this card too. And I think that kind of like is also a factor with this fight card movement over to Vegas, is that Jamal Charlo's going to be able to get back in there against Jose Benavidez Jr. So we'll be able to see what happens here with Jamal Charlo, what his status is. I know that we recently seen him out and about. He was at the Canelo fight. He's been around Roy Jones Jr., but Roy Jones is not his lead trainer. It's still Coach Ronnie Shields over there in the Houston area. So you're gonna have Roy pretty much being like the chief second there for Jamal Charlo in his upcoming bout, when he does eventually face Jose Benavidez Jr. But I think that might be another story to follow, is how Jamal Charlo is getting himself back into shape, or back into fighting shape to fully get back in the ring, because I mean, he's supposed to be still the WBC middleweight champion. The WBC hadn't made no decision as to the status of him being a champ. Like he's not champion in recess or nothing like that. He's still the full-fledged champ. So if he's able to get back in the ring here and face Jose Benavidez Jr., then maybe that could say I don't know if they can put that as like a world title bout or not. Jose Benavidez Jr. is, just had like one bout, and that was what in August, something like that. So maybe it's just something that like kind of like get Jamal Charlo back in the game. But outside of that, I really don't see much where it could come from it, because I don't think folks are really interested in seeing if Jamal Charlo would be a future opponent there for Canelo Alvarez in 2024. But with this news of that Benavidez-Andrade card kind of like moving over to Vegas instead of San Antonio, maybe that gets a little bit more eyes towards both of those guys. But I know that there's like I said, there's going to be a few people around the Texas area that are going to be disappointed that this fight card is not going to be in San Antonio, because that could have been a really good pull for that city to get that fight card. Now moving around quick, we had action yesterday, especially what's going down in the Golden Boy portion of the card. But real quick, man, hitting up. Shout out to Joseph in the building for Warrington Radio, man. I'm gonna see if I could, try to get something on there with you here real fast. So bear with me real quick, because I actually wanted to get his reaction to that news, man. That came from, or at least it came from Jake Donovan. But yeah, having this thing move over from San Antonio to Las Vegas, man. I kind of feel like that was fairly disappointing news there, so to speak, for those that are fight fans in Texas. So definitely wanted to see if we could chime in on that here. But we did have some action that happened yesterday. First, I was gonna touch on the Golden Boy card, where at least you had something with former champion in super middleweight, and now he's kind of like moved up to light heavyweight. Did have his loss to Demetrius Bivol in his last bout, and that's Gilberto Ramirez going up against Joe Smith Jr. Of course, Joe Smith is a former world champion at light heavyweight. Got stopped pretty much like beat down by Artur Beterbiev last year. So that was his first fight since that loss to Beterbiev, and Gilberto Ramirez coming back from his loss to Bivol here against Joe Smith Jr. And that bout was it looked like it was like a very good action bout. I thought it was like a good piece of matchmaking, so to speak, as far as like from an action perspective is concerned, because what you were going to get from Gilberto Ramirez and from Joe Smith Jr. That neither one of them was going to back down from each other or anything like that. It was just who really had much of a pack, pretty much a good punch to really like stun the other, and you really didn't see much of that. I thought it was more of like how we had what was it, Emmanuel Navarrete versus Oscar Valdez, almost to a certain extent. But you had Gilberto Ramirez, a little bit better than Joe Smith in this particular sense, as far as like having his activity and things like that. But given what happened for the decision, you had all three judges scored 9 rounds to 1 in favor of Gilberto Ramirez there in that particular bout for him to get that win. Now, I'm not sure what is going to happen next for Zurdo, because this one was well north of the light heavyweight division, and he came in at almost like 190 pounds. So maybe kind of like hangs around a cruiserweight or something like that. But I'm not sure. Maybe Golden Boy will have something else out there for him that he could, make some moves in the cruiserweight division, maybe. But I just don't really see him doing much of anything, trying to get back down to light heavyweight because that's almost like another 20 pounds that they'll have to go back down on that sense there. Now, Boxer Academic, I know that you kind of like checked out some of the action there that was on that Golden Boy card. What did you think about that this fight here with Zurdo and Joe Smith Jr.?
So I definitely agree with you that it was a great clash of styles, with the way that Ramirez sort of, picks his shots and throws shots and combinations. He tried to stay close to you, but he's I ain't say he have brain lapses, but there are moments where he's not doing anything, and he allows people to sort of tee off on him in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that you have that style and you have what's my guy name, the white guy, what's the white guy? Joe Smith. So you got Joe Smith, who's the workman like fighter, who's gonna come in there and just wing shots, coming from the outside, he gonna wing big shots. Not a lot of he was trying to think a little bit, but you know what you're gonna get from Joe Smith. It was definitely a great clash of styles. I believe Zurdo definitely won the fight, but I didn't score the fight, but maybe one round for Joe Smith. I don't know. I didn't score it, but I mean, there were some rounds where he did land some big punches, and I recall him landing more of those big punches toward the later rounds, to where he probably could have at least won like 2 rounds. I didn't score it, so I can't say specifically. But Zurdo, there were times where I questioned if he was going to get caught with something big and then be laid out on the floor. So those are the times where I say that he has those sort of lapses where he allows people to just sort of tee off of him. And I vaguely remember the fight with the Russian where he was just getting hit too, and he couldn't really do anything. And then with a guy like Joe Smith, who's not as crafty as those other guys, Joe Smith landing shots on you, and I get it, he trying to block with his gloves, but it'd have been nice to see him do a bit more of the things that he was doing earlier. But you could say he was tired as well. But yeah, I mean, Zurdo, I'm not sure, like you said, where he goes, especially if he goes up, because I think he probably may be too small for some people. And if he can get down, he ain't gonna beat either of the Russian guys. So,
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation there for him because you've had all of these titles being locked up in the light heavyweight division. You like, we ain't really gonna get me a undisputed champion there anytime soon. And here at like cruiserweight, we had like what was it, the IBF champion that just won. And I know you do have like someone like Badu Jack that's a world champion out there, but
I'm not sure if he beat Badu Jack. I just can't. I don't know. Badu Jack is old, right? But I'm not sure where Badu Jack is at that he would beat Badu Jack. I'm not sure.
Right. And I mean, you got some other fighters out there that's either been former world champions or kind of like competitive too. But right now, at least before this particular fight, they had put Zurdo and Joe Smith Jr. In the WBA rankings. So I don't know like where they're gonna fit Zurdo here next. Like, does he beat someone like a Dorticos? Who's like a former champ himself, Yunior Dorticos, or like you also had who else was in action a few weeks back? Marcus Brown was in action over here in the DC area a few weeks back. So he's kind of like competing there at the cruiserweight division too. So, like if you match up Zurdo against like those guys, like where would he be at? Plus, you also still have the business part of it too. Like a lot of these other guys, like the Nchunus or the Macabus or the Mike Perez is like, is Zurdo going to be really interested in fighting those guys? If it doesn't, give him the, proper money on there. So
He could
yeah,
beat Perez though.
he could beat Mike Perez, but it's like, is it something to where he's going to be interested in making that type of a fight though? That's going to be that would be the main question of it all. Is Zurdo going to be interested in fighting like a Mike Perez? But the thing about it is though, they could probably make some type of a event for Zurdo Ramirez to face someone like a Mike Perez. That's the thing about it, is that, I mean, Golden Boy will kind of like come up with some of those matches to kind of feature Ramirez in that sense. But outside of that, where else does he go? I'm really not sure on that. You know what I'm saying? Uh, you did have that particular bout as like the headlining bout over at the Cosmopolitan. You also had Beck Beck the Bully there, who he beat Gabriel Rosado with his last fight in that rematch that they had earlier this year. He faced Lante Fox, who is a DMV fighter out here. He ended up Beck the Bully ended up getting a fourth round TKO victory. And Box Academy, you had like a little bit of something to say about that, because it looked like that was premature stoppage of sorts, or whatever it is, or that Fox could have continued in that bout, man. So what did you think on that one?
So obviously, Beck the Bully was the better fighter. I mean, there's no like overall better fighter in terms of power, in terms of just the total package of a fighter. Beck the Bully was the better fighter and probably the main draw in the fight as well. Fox, his strategy, from what I could see, was to cover up and then throw counter shots. And so when he got hurt and eventually the ref was coming over him, like the ref was already trying to stop the fight at other times in the fight where you could see Fox was just covering up. And so he was doing the same thing that he did the whole fight, which was cover up and try to throw shots in between or right after the shots land. I wouldn't call that a great strategy, but that's obviously how he fights. And so he's over in the corner where Beck the Bully hurt him or whatever, and then the ref is just eager to like step in, and he's waiting for Beck to stop throwing shots so he can throw shots. And that was the same pattern of the fight. Could you say that the ref sort of saved him from any extra punishment? Yes. But in terms of that being the actual end of the fight, he was less hurt than he was in the beginning of the fight. 30 seconds before, when he got knocked down or when he got hurt, he was less hurt at that moment than he was 30 seconds before when he got knocked down. And, wasn't it just a few more seconds in the round or something? I'm not sure, but the ref did what he thought was necessary, because obviously Fox wasn't going to win the fight. So, I understand it from that respect, but the guy could have continued.
Like, they at least it could have, had it to where he could have competed a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? Either that or, give it to the point of where it could be a more definitive finish, for Beck, but they kind of, the ref kind of like made it to where it's like you step in kind of early there, and Alan Huggins stepping in. But, that was like what his, that was Fox's like third loss in a row. And he already had like one fight earlier this year in Montreal, and then he also lost to David Morrell like almost 2 years ago. So, and that ended up being like, this right here was like his third stoppage loss, man. In his 5 overall losses. But he kind of makes it to the point where he's more of like one of those guys where either you could really have a lot of issues against him with his height, because he's there at 6'4", or if you could get through his punches, you can pretty much try to walk through him. And I think that's what Beck tried to do here in this particular bout. But you know, it- yeah, I think sometimes the referees just gotta wait a little bit and then see if the fighter that's being like on the ropes or it looks like they're in trouble. Try to have them do something in order to get through that particular bout. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of like how that broke out. For Victor Bully in this sense is that he ends up getting this win. So it's like he's kind of like slowly getting himself back in the groove after getting stopped by Gabriel Rosado in 2021. But uh I don't know, man. I think they're trying to boost him up, so to speak. They're in the super middleweight division, but he'll be some time before he could really compete there at the top of or near the top of that division, man. It's going to be a good little while because I tell you right now, they would not put him in there against someone like a David Morrell Jr. I know that. David Morrell's definitely looking for some fights, but yeah, I definitely don't think that they put him in there against David Morrell or someone like even like a Christian Billy. I don't even think they would even do that. So um, maybe they'll find some other type of a matchup for him, like I don't know, a John Ryder maybe. So or I think they got Diego Pacheco. Maybe Diego Pacheco would be a potential opponent for Beck, but outside of that, like they tried to boost him up really fast there before he got derailed by Gabe Rosado in that first stoppage loss that he got. But outside of that, now it looks like they're trying to take things real slow with him, on that particular sense. So, I think that's going to be their route is to try to get him there, get him gradually moving up in the ranks at super middleweight before he faces one of those top guys. Because right now, yeah, I don't think he's kind of completely ready to make that significant step up in class there in that super middleweight division. Even though I don't feel like that's kind of uh, a very deep division, I still don't think that he can get to the top of that division really quickly.
Let me say one last thing that your conversation made me think of. What I
Mm,
left with the fight is no different than what I left with the fight when he fought Rosado the first time. He ain't the savior of Golden Boy, Uh, he ain't, like because Fox, he was better than Fox. There's no, you can't. You have to give him credit that he was better than Fox, but Fox was still in his hemisphere. Fox was still, he was a level below him, but he was still, he held a candle to him, if you know what I'm trying to say.
hmm
And so if you can't okay, Fox is a very tall guy and the reach gave him problems. Let me say the obvious there. But if you are letting guys, and no disrespect to this guy, but like they Gabe Rosado and Fox sort of stick with you, you ain't Golden Boy savior. Like I get it. They gotta promote their fighters and respect to them for doing what they need to do for the fighter. But I didn't leave that fight, like he won, but I didn't leave it thinking like, oh, he gonna come in there and be Golden Boy savior in a sense. He ain't that guy. Let me just say that. But
Well,
he's a good fighter.
yeah, he ain't that guy, but it's like this, right? Like, who else they had out there? Um, like even with like the last, what was it? The last Golden Boy event they had, or something like that, where uh, who it was, where they had Drevianchenko facing Jaime Munguia there. Like, would you put Beck versus Sergey Derevianchenko there at the super middleweight division and see if Beck could get past that?
Not if you don't want him to be hurt in the middle. He could probably win, but I'm just saying he gonna get his egg gonna get cracked at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he's vulnerable. He's definitely vulnerable for that. definitely vulnerable for that. So, like matching him up against someone like a Sergey Derevyanchenko, yeah, that might not be a good little, that might not be a good little plan.
But that would be
Um,
a very interesting fight, though. That would be
yeah,
a good fan friendly fight.
oh, for sure, that would be a, definitely a interesting fight there. You know what I'm saying, for that one. So, kind of like would be in the lookout if they would try to match those two guys up there in the future, man. But yeah, I don't know, man. They kind of like put back in these different situations, and now it's like uh maybe, yeah, maybe they're trying to put him up against one of those other guys that they had there on Golden Boy, and probably see where they go with either one of those fighters, maybe. So we'll see what happens on that. You also had over in the UK a featherweight world title fight between Lee Wood and Josh Warrington, man, and I'm like, man, see, this was something where I kind of like said, Lee Wood, he ended up getting a decision win, over Mauricio Lara, in May to be the WBA champion there. After he got knocked out by Mauricio Lara, like I don't understand it, man. They be giving these guys a lot of chances there over in the UK, man. But it was even worse here in this sense, because they had Josh Warrington coming off of losing the IBF belt to Luis Alberto Lopez last year, and they put him right back in the world title fight against Lee Wood. And I said, you know what, man? I'm sorry, y'all. I know. I kind of like cover the sport, and there's a few fighters that I don't take a kid to. Okay, one of those, as y'all know, is Gennady Golovkin. Okay, never been a fan, never will be a fan of Gennady Golovkin. Okay, but another one, I'm sorry, it's Josh Warrington, man. I don't like his fighting style. Never really liked his fighting style. When he got beat or knocked out by Mauricio Lara, like that should have been him being taken out of the paint, in the featherweight division. But we found a way to get back into it. Ended up winning the IBF belt against Kiko Martinez last year, but then ended up losing it right back. And so he gets this other fight here against Lee Wood, but this fight was a pretty good fight. It was a pretty good fight. I thought it was gonna be something where it would be a little bit rough, so to speak, because that's usually what Josh Warrington does. He makes things rough, especially on the inside, ties up, uses his head a lot, really sneaks in a few things here or there. But he kind of fought a pretty good fight here in those first few rounds or whatever it was, and it looked like he was on his way to potentially winning this bout. But then Lee Wood does sometimes what he does, man. He finds a way to win. Just like when he sent Big College straight to hell last year, and how he was able to get a win over Mauricio Lara earlier this year. He found his way to win against Josh Warrington. It was hitting him with some serious hooks there in that seventh round, man, and put Warrington down to the canvas near the end of the round. Warrington got up around like the count of 6. Then he was walking to one side of the ring when it was like count to 7. Then he headed like back to his corner. It was like at the end of the round, and the referee was like checking for him, and referee said, "Oh no, man, I'm waving off the belt." and there you have it, man. Lee Wood ends up getting that knockout win and keeps his title. And For me, I thought it was kind of interesting that you really didn't see the corner of Josh Warrington really saying much of anything there. I mean, it was the end of the round, and they were pretty much like on the apron there. They put out they put out the stool to have Josh Warrington sitting there, but I guess it was just to the point where the referee didn't really get a good enough response from Josh Warrington after him getting up to where they say that he would want it to continue, because it could have been interesting there if he would have allowed Josh Warrington to continue. That would have been the end of the round, and then we would have seen like maybe what would happen for the start of round 8. But referee didn't quite allow that, so Lee Wood gets that win, and that was another exciting finish there for Lee Wood for him to keep that title there. But that's the like for me, that's the featherweight division right there, man. Lee Wood, there of course, defending his title. You got Luis Lopez, that had a recent defense of that IBF title. Rubisa Ramirez is out there with the world championship, but I think this is more of the case of where Lee Wood kind of, I guess he stands out here as one of the top guys at 126. Maybe some folks will say Rubisi Ramirez is that, but that's the thing on it, man. But I don't know, man. I guess the featherweight division, that's the thing with the featherweight division too, man. We don't really have that many fights there where you have a unified champion at featherweight. So, I'm kind of like looking for that, and I'm not really seeing that, coming anytime soon. Luis Lopez, said that he wanted to, have a unification bout, that he didn't want to have the mandatory defense of the IBF title. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen, because Ramirez is going to be fighting somebody else here in this sense. So, but that kind of like is that featherweight division right there, man. In a sense, it looks like academic is gonna kind of like turn down on giving an analysis of this fight. But so with that being said, I wanted to jump into some other news that like I kind of stumbled upon here, and this is in reference to what was it with Bomac. Apparently, the thing with Bomac is that they're going to reportedly have the sentencing for Bomac's gun possession charge on Monday, man. They say that he's going to be put there in front of the I think it's a magistrate or something like that, or in the courts. And with this gun charge, usually those charges go like up to 10 years. And some are saying that he might be sentenced to 5. Man, I'm hoping that like everything is cleared, man. Like that is like a serious situation. You know what I mean? And I think it was just something where it's sometimes how they have these things with the like how you going through airports, back and forth through airports. Some have certain rules in reference to firearms, and others have other rules where it's like no tolerance or something like that. So I'm feeling like that was like an oversight of sorts, in that maybe he could just go by. It's not like something where it's not like he's a a dangerous person or anything like that, or something like that. Like there were like incidents that happened to Bomac the last time he was over in the UK. So if he had something where he was bringing a firearm over, that was for protecting himself. It ain't like he was, it wasn't like he was like in intent to, harm, anybody there in the UK. So he had the thing where he was, training Chris Eubank Jr. for his bout against Liam Smith. And, outside of that, like, there wasn't really much else or much other things that were going down that could really, kind of like incite something to, make this some type of a serious incident. But UK, has those rules in reference to firearms, man. But as of what I've seen here, looks like tomorrow. I guess tomorrow afternoon they're supposed to hand down the sentence, and therefore Brian Bomack McIntyre. But like I'm hoping that they have something else where they could just extend out something or whatever, man. It's a crazy situation there to have someone like Brian McIntyre be stuck there in the UK for that type of a charge. But that's what I had to drop on that. Other than that, we're really like pretty much in a lull of sorts, man. I know folks were talking about the whole thing with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, and them agreeing to having a fight, and that there would be a two-way rematch clause. But as of right now, man, I'm not sure how that's going to sort itself out. You still have Tyson Fury supposed to be facing Ngannou in a few weeks or whatever it is. So after that, I guess they're trying to get Fury back in the ring to face Alexander Usyk. Shoot, we don't even know what the potential date is going to be for that first fight, much less having a two-way fight or two-fight deal between those two. So I mean, when it comes to Tyson Fury, you never know. You never know. Like of course, we had the whole thing with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, sometime back, and now you had what happened earlier this year when they were initially trying to negotiate that undisputed title fight. And you see how that goes. So now with I know that they said like, oh, what was it? Frank Warren said they had something. Alexander Usyk said something. Usyk's promoter said something. Usyk's manager said something. But Fury ain't saying nothing yet. So it's like, if Fury ain't say nothing, then hey, I don't know what to take from that. So that's kind of like how I decipher all of that, man. But what else I got, man? Hold on, what was this thing here? Talk about, I don't know if Tip's still on here, man. Hey, shout out to Jamila White, Sim Sports Media in the building. Yeah, I'll wait till I see them in the ring, man. Because until they had that thing completely signed, we got a date, we got a venue, and then you got like a weigh-in. We got fight weekend. They're both at the weigh-in, looking at each other face to face. Then I ain't buying it, man. So we had something earlier, man. Said Tip said, salute to Terrence Crawford finding a way to hold up the 147-pound division by calling out Canelo and not fighting his mandatories. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah, there's a number of mandatories there or whatever it is. We just had that recent fight between Mario Barrios and Yordenis Ugas in the WBC. We know who the IBF interim champion is. Yeah, what's up, Tip? We know who the IBF interim champion is. We had what? Shoot, I don't even know what the last defense of the WBO mandatory was. I don't think WBO had called for anything. And WBA, you still have Iman Stanionis around there, still waiting on something. But after we had this fight come up, for the undisputed welterweight title, that should have been like, that should have been somewhere it was like one and done. After you have an undisputed champion, then the welterweight, the sanctioning bodies for the welterweight division should have said, okay, y'all got this thing over with. We have an undisputed champion. Now, here's what we do as far as like the mandatories are concerned, and just go ahead with that. So I don't know why they haven't made any decision on that, but we'll see how that goes. Got another great guest here to jump in here on the late tip. What that? Man, what? Oh yeah, yeah. I saw that dish before. That's like the salad joint. I think you had there, chef. What's up, chef?
Hey, what's up, guys? What's going on? This is once again taking the sport of boxing, a sport that doesn't stop, a sport that keeps going, a sport that keeps living despite the new era in boxing, new pay-per-view era, things like that. Different networks changing, some fading, some going. It still keeps going. We're still here with boxing. Still.
Yeah, for sure, man. Since you just got in, man. What did you have in reference to what happened this weekend? If you were able to catch some stuff that happened this weekend.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any results. I know there's a couple of fights over in England. What was it, Warrington, Lee Woods, something like that. That's about all I know. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see what happened with that.
Oh, word. Yeah, man. And you always talk about the whole thing with David Benavidez and Demetrius-Andrade. Like it was originally slated for to take place in San Antonio, but now it looks like it's going to be in Las Vegas, man. In that, it's going to be like Mandalay Bay or something like that. I guess it makes it a little bit of a bigger fight, or you get more off the gate for that. But for those that were in Texas, or fight fans in Texas, I think they were looking forward to having that card there in San Antonio. But I guess money talks in that sense there. So in November, that's what's going to be happening is David Benavidez and Demetrius Andrade. They're two undefeated fighters in the super middleweight division. And we got something from the Boxing Academic reference to that fight. What do you think about that fight, Terrell?
Well, I'll tell you what, in contrast to what we just saw with Canelo Charlo, I would bet all the money in Mike's pocket right now, in his bank account, that we're going to have a firefight. and that's a lot of damn money. Mike walk around with a 10-step walk around. We know that. Isn't that right, Mike?
Which Mike you talking? I'm still waiting on my blessing.
Mike walk around with a 10-stack walk around. We know that. But anyway, so I mean, bottom line, that's gonna be a firefight. Both these guys have extremely lot to prove. In Andrade, who's always been looking for a big fight, and even which is crazy, has not been in a high profile fight yet, which is crazy to think of, right? But he's always right on the edge. And we know what Benavidez brings to that. So, I mean, it would have been great to have the fight in Texas. That would have been great. But at this point now, once again, boxing is a business. What's going to generate the most gate? More likely, part of that was better at the minute, like you stated, like that. And that fight's going to be on pay-per-view, right?
Yep, that's going to be on Showtime pay-per-view.
And I'll have another question for you too. Once we kind of wrap up with that, but once again, boxing is a business. We got to generate get these guys paid, build out a good undercard to support the main event, things like that. So it's probably a good look, but and what better place to fight at than Vegas? It's known for all the big fights. We know that, so have no qualms with that at all. So. I mean, bottom line, it's going to be a great fight because these guys are hungry and both have a lot to prove, even though they already have a good measure of confidence already. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be it'll be a good little scrap, but between those two, and like you said, with Demetrius Andrade, this is going to be his first high profile fight, where he's main event there, in a pay-per-view setting. So to speak, and like I said, his last fight was against Damon Nicholson as part of that card for Tank versus Hector Luis Garcia that was here in the DC area. But now he's of course by far facing his biggest test here in a fighter that was former world champion, who some pretty much say that should still be a world champion. That say that he is probably number 2. Or number 1 in the super middleweight division, of course, with Canelo being the undisputed champion. So now it's like with Demetrius-Andrade, he's like now he's gonna see if he can show and prove where he is as far as like one of the better overall fighters there in that division or around that division. But like I said earlier, he's been looking for this type of fight for a long time, and he's out there, as the oldest contender out there in the super middleweight division. Like he's there at 35 years old, in comparison to David Benavidez, who's there at 26 right now. So we got to see like what his condition is at this particular point of his career. He's had that awkward type of a style for the majority of his career that kind of like makes him a tough fighter to gauge, but also it kind of like puts him in some compromising positions from a boxing standpoint. And so he could make it really, really interesting, or he can make it really frustrating out there against David Benavidez. So I'm looking forward to it to see what he does here at this particular stage of his career, how he's going to do in that fight against David Benavidez. And you also have Jamal Charlo that's slated to face Jose Benavidez Jr. in that fight card as well. So definitely looking to see what happens with Jamal Charlo here, coming back after almost 3 years out of the game. So that's going to be something to look out for in this particular sense there. But that's mainly what I had, man. I got to lock up a couple of interviews here for this week, maybe. But the other thing was there was like other news out there talking about Canelo Alvarez potentially not fighting either Jamal Charlo or maybe David, or the winner of David Benavidez and Demetrius-Andrade, that he could be fighting Carlos Adames next. And I'm like, where in the world would that come from? Like there was no indication or anything like that where there would be any hints of Canelo Alvarez facing a Carlos Adames there. So I don't know why it got brought up. From a business perspective, it doesn't make sense, So I don't know why it was brought up for the couple of days that it was up, but now it's kind of like been out of the picture and out of the cards. So
that's crazy. You said Berlanga, I could kind of deal with that from business side better than Adames, even though I'm high on Adames, but it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense at all, man. So,
even Berlanga would be worse than Charlo.
Yeah, it would be worse. It would be worse than
I'm about to say that's the punchline. I ain't have nothing else to say other than
that. But yeah, just having that thing come out of left field, to me, that was just kind of wild. But outside of that, man, there really isn't for me, there really isn't that much action coming up here. All I'm seeing is there's supposed to be a middleweight title unification bout coming up on Saturday, but the middleweight division really ain't it really ain't jumping off all too hot anyway. So we'll see how that goes here, man. And you do have Tim Tszyu versus Brian Mendoza. That's going to be in Australia on Saturday. That'll be on Showtime. That is for the junior middleweight title, WBO title. Of course, the WBO stripped Jamal Charlo before his fight against Canelo Alvarez. So now they got Tim Tszyu, supposedly the new champion, but let's see if folks, like I said, call Tim Tszyu email champion. But he does have this fight coming up against Brian Mendoza, who did come up with one of the best knockouts of this year when he knocked out Sebastian Fundora. But we'll see how he does here against Tim Tszyu. If he beats Tim Tszyu, shoot, he might state a case to be one of those guys for Fighters of the Year this year. Having those two, like he would have two impressive victories there in the 154-pound division against Sebastian Fedora and Tim Tszyu. So if he gets two victories like that, you really gotta make a case for him to be up there for Fighter of the Year. But we'll see how that goes. They're over in Australia on October 14th. But outside of that, man, that's what I got here for this hour on the boxing news or whatnot. Giving thanks to all of those who listen in live. For those that want to catch the replay, just hit the rewind or back button or something like that, or just wait out until this thing is done, and then you'll have the full version of this show here available for y'all to enjoy. But big thanks to the Box Academic Intro for joining in this particular podcast. And like I say at the end of every show, folks, quarterback is to hit and not get hit, not to sit and trade. On that note, folks, I'm out. Have a good evening, everybody.
Yeah.